Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Coding and Philosophy episode.
I'm here with Juho.
I'm here with Tri. And today, Tri, I think we could talk about your work today. Because you work as a tester.
That's right, I do software testing for my 9 to 5 profession.
Yeah, and you're a part-time podcaster. And you make no money doing this.
Yeah.
But, so before we turned on the mics, we were discussing about the way your team is set up, right?
Yeah, the ways the software engineering team in Framery are structured and set up.
Mm-hmm. And we were also talking about how is it better to be a generalist or a specialist? And I think, my opinion on that is that I think specialists are best when they are utilized by generalists. So specialists they are really good at executing a well-defined task, but because their field of view is so narrow,
Yeah, I'm gonna be an open-minded person and point out that how does we arrive at the generalist and specialist when we are opening up with my software testing work.
I'm not following.
I'm not following. You're not following.
Well, I'm a non-linear talker. I go from topic to topic.
We open up this discussion to mention that I work as a software tester. Mm-hmm. I work in software testing. And then we also introduced a topic that the way we structure, the way Framarian software engineering structure, and then we also introduced a topic that generalist versus specialist, and we open up the pros and cons for those two modes of being. Mm-hmm. All right, what do you want to start? We can start with the generalist and specialist, given that you have given more details.
Yeah, well, my plan was to throw the dart in all direction and see where the discussion starts to direct towards. You know what I mean?
No, because that's what we have to warm up. That's what we have the warm up for. That's the way we allow for the dart to be thrown everywhere. I hope that in the discussion we have a more pinpoint, focused, sharpshooting kind of discussion. So we pick a topic and we dive more details about it. And then among that, we may allow for something to expand as a byproduct of that linear chain discussion.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Well, let's go with the generalist versus a specialist. Mm-hmm. So how I think specialists are best when they are utilized by a generalist, and the way that the generalist utilizes them is that they define they define a task, which is what a generalist is really good at, because they see the world broadly, right? And they are able to find, what's the word? When you say something that, what's the word I'm looking for? Analogies. Yeah, that's what generalists are generally good at, is analogies. As opposed to specialists, they have I wouldn't say they are in general, they aren't good in analogies, no?
How do you imagine a specialist? What's the specialist in your imagination?
Someone who has very deep knowledge on a specific thing.
On a specific thing, right?
Yeah, a specific thing.
Can you draw me an example of what thing that can be?
That can be, it could be anything. It could be Legos.
Be Lego.
It could be they know every single Lego set that has come out. They have really kind of narrowed focus. And the way, let's say, a generalist comes along and sees this person really into Legos, they could build, let's say, a a following, somehow utilize that in social media, for example.
Okay.
And then
allow me to say how I view the specialist thing, concept of specialist, how I view when it comes to my mind of specialist. Mechanics dealing with a car, is that a specialist? Maybe, because the very specific thing he's dealing with is a car. So he can fix a car. That's still too broad. A car has so many different components. The car can be a tire, a car can be the engines, a car can be the fuel, and all the pipelines, the ventilation indoor, or even like the paint exterior, and what level of details. And let's just say a mechanics can even make a profession out of being specialized in just one.
That's true.
And the type of generalist, though. So to me, the specialist the mechanic who seems to specialize in a car can still be considered a generalist in comparison to a specialist who specializes in the very specific components of a car, which can still be drilled down and can still be analyzed towards more details to the bolt. An engineering who specializes in a bolt for a tire of car for this very specific model. You see, there's an infinite level. There's a very many layer of complexity that specialists can drill down to, and when we move upward, it seems more and more generalized.
Yeah, but if you think about the utility, like how to get the maximum utility, is you're right. Like you have specialists who are generalists in other areas and generalists who are specialists in some areas. But let's say a car mechanic, someone who has a very general view, is a generalist in engines, knows how engines work. Well, they don't have knowledge on, for example, airplane engines, but they can, let's say someone comes to them with a problem, my airplane doesn't work, and the generalist the generalist mechanic who understands engines doesn't know anything about airplane engines, but he can still walk up and talk to an airplane mechanic and define the problem in a way that the airplane mechanic can then fix it, right?
I cannot say for sure. This is airplane. This is a life or death situation. So
yeah, but
I neither agree or deny.
Someone who's in the example is that a generalist in a general field can still define the problem to a specialist. You know?
Yes. Yeah, I can see. But then we also come across a communication problem that what is the problem you are describing is still too vague. It's still too general. How we resolve it? How do we narrow it down into an actionable that we can turn that into a solutions? I mean, we can throw a random problem. Let it be economic crisis or environmental degradation, pollution. That seems to be a problem. That's very high level thinking. That seems to be a very generalistic, something that a generalist can refer to. How do we solve that? How do we define it to the point of specifics enough so that we can arrive at a solution?
Well, I say you don't just have a bunch of specialists or you don't have just a bunch of generalists. You have a mix between those two.
Yeah.
And that's the most efficient way of tackling a problem.
That's the way the world works. We bunch of people with different abilities sits together and chips in to arrive at something in common, right? Not in common. People with different skill and abilities sit together to arrive at solutions, and it addresses a common problem.
I just realized one thing I need to have is I think writing notes would be really good. I need to have a notebook next because when you say things, there's points I want to make, but I forget them sometimes. But yeah, anyways, the specialists. Now I forgot my point. My mind is a very. It goes from one place to another really easily, as opposed to sticking to a one topic.
Maybe you can take a look of data structure. I like data structure because it's the way I can organize information. For example, an array is that you can store pieces of information together and you can treat that as a block. Yeah. And when you are dealing with the fact that your idea jumps from here to another topic, that's a tree data structure because it can traverse this from here to there and jump back in there. But when understanding the tree structure, you can imagine the path that it traversed, and then you can trace back the nodes to whatever thread we are discussing.
But that's what usually happens is that I go on a tangent on another topic.
Like we always pop back like a stack.
Exactly. But sometimes
putting topic onto the stack, we're discussing it, we just pop it out. And then just return back to the one, close it until we have the original thread of discussion we would like to do.
Yeah, but sometimes it doesn't pop back. You just go on a tangent and you end up going to that tangent.
That's how you have to kill the process.
Yeah, exactly. You have to go Control Alt Delete and then
Control. In the command line, you can say kill and then specify the ID of the process.
That's true. I work like you nowadays work way low level than I. I still work in a very high level.
I still need to understand the high level. Yeah, I work with different level of complexity or details.
Yeah. So actually, going back to that, you were telling
that. What is that?
Well, you're working as a tester.
Okay, we are popping back to that topic.
Yeah,
sure enough. So we have wrap up the generalist and specialist.
We
discussion.
might come back to it.
We might come back to it. Okay.
It's on the call. It's on the call stack. No.
Yeah, we haven't wrapped it up because we haven't arrived at a more or less summary.
Yeah, but we're gonna come to that summary after we have a little bit of discussion about you being a tester. I wanted to ask you about.
All right.
So you working as a tester, I've never really asked, what is it that you do?
Holy, I'm gonna open up you a whole new level of complexity, my friend.
Bring it on, man.
All right. Testing. Testing can be done by everyone, first and foremost. Every role in a software development team and people outside of a software development team can engage in testing activities. Yeah.
I have engaged in testing I'm a bit of a tester myself.
And what I do in a 9-to-5 job, is that what you would like to ask, or would you like to know more about the activity of testing?
Well, let's put it this way: what I imagine a tester does, like the whole profession seems kind of strange. Because imagine
test. A side note before you come back, the word tester that you are using, it is an abstraction. It is wrapping up a lot of complexity. Go ahead.
Yeah, so how back in the day, when you would products of engineering was a lot more simpler, let's say, or it was quicker, I would say. Well,
software engineering to be exact?
No, not software engineering, but just like, let's say you bring out a new weapon, a new gun.
Yeah.
The Gatling gun was invented. You would build it for a while, and then you would build a finished product.
Yes.
And then give it to some soldiers, like, okay, you test this. Is it good? Is it bad? And give me some like feedback on that. So that's how testing used to be done back in the day.
Yeah.
But now I feel, because like software engineering or like some products take so much time and are so complex that you're doing the testing while you are developing it. You haven't released anything, but you're testing it though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like when you run code tests, that's what you're doing.
Yes.
Well,
Run code tests.
Yeah, so it's wild to me how
unit testing.
You
run the unit tests.
It has become its own, let's say, branch. It has expanded so much. There's a career called tester now, as opposed to it used to, well, not be that way. It was
a couple, maybe 100 years ago, computer programmer is not recognized as a legit profession. Edgar Dijkstra, the inventor of the creator of Dijkstra algorithm, cannot have his legal as a computer programmer on his marriage paper.
What do you mean?
Yeah, so the government didn't accept that Edgar Dijkstra's legal career as a computer programmer because it is not recorded in the system yet.
I don't know who
Edgar Dijkstra. So he's just a well-known guy. He's a computer scientist. He's a well-known guy for his algorithm, the shortest path algorithm.
Okay.
Yeah, but my point, 50 years a shot in the dark, 200 years ago, computer programmer is not a profession. And the Edgar Dijkstra is an example to illustrate that point. And back to the initial discussion, software testing needs more and more. It expands itself. It expands itself as activities, and it has more techniques into it, and people are contributing more into building the reservoir of technique, and it itself needs its own complexity. That's why it becomes its own full-fledged profession and even a career path.
And that's wild to me if you think about how we're becoming so much more complex each year that passes by as a humanity. There's more opportunities, there's more complexity in everything, and there's more, everything is becoming more specific, even more specific than before, you know? Do you feel that?
This is such an oxymoron because we have more but things become more more defined and needs specialization. We have more things, as in we emerge out a new entity, but that means that each entity has so much depth and history. Yeah,
and
now back to my initial questions. What do you want when you ask me about what I do in software testing? Are you curious about what I do on a day-to-day basis on a more general testing activity?
Well, I'm interested in the general knowledge that you gain from being a tester. So where you could kind of apply it even after even if you leave your current position in Framework.
Okay. A general application. There are testing fundamentals. There are techniques. To approach testing that we, the QA engineers, approach a problem. I can introduce you to some of the techniques. Is that you treat the software you're dealing with as a black box, okay? And you know that the black box does something, right? In order to do something, it receives input. Yeah.
But you don't know what's happening
inside the box.
Yeah.
It just receive inputs. It does its mumbo jumbo magic inside. We don't know what that is. And then it spit out something as the output. It returns something. It does something as a response. Testing. And also one way to approach testing is we verify that because input can usually have its limits. Limit as in, to draw an example with number, it has different point in a number system. It can be a negative number, it can be 0, it can be a float, it can be a very large number. So those are different entities that we can test for number. With text space or a string, we can do a different encoding of a string. We can use alphabet that is not Latin. We can use emoji. We use different class of string. And then feed that into the system and see how it responds. Does it gracefully handle it? Does it completely just having a null response, so it doesn't crash, but it doesn't know how to handle and just give out an empty screen, or it just completely flatly crashes?
So and this is more specific on software testing, because if you think about game testing, you're just basically pretending to be a player. Is this enjoyable? But so software testing is all about you just you try, because you can never plan out for all of all the variations of inputs that could be put into the black box.
And hear me out. I would continue with my chain of story, is that the output of the black box can be the input of another black box.
Okay.
So you see, so you have a graph-based model. The graph-based model is that the data, the information passed, that the input, it goes to a black box, get processed, spit it out, it becomes the ingredients or the input of something else. So we have a tree. How do I visualize a tree? So you have...
Here's one.
Yeah, the information passes in a different way. It travels from this path, follow a chain of logic to here, and it arrive at this final state. But we can test out a different way that information can travel to verify that all of those way that information can be transformed during those black box and arrive at the state that visible to the user or the front end, that it's intact.
But so you're saying there's multiple, so the information goes into one black box, the output goes into another black box, and that's visible. The output you see that goes into the other black box is visible, and you can analyze that. And you just kind of see how it changes between jumping in between these different black boxes.
Yes. Well, you can kind of get it. But when I say black box, I'm referring the black box can be like a feature of a software. A feature of a software.
Yeah, some mumbo jumbo, some magical mumbo jumbo.
Yes, a magical mumbo jumbo.
Which is, well, going back to what I mentioned, game testing, which is
the
completely different.
The type of game testing, when you ask the user to use that, the person who plays the game is not necessarily a tester, but it can be the end user. So different kind of testing, user acceptance testing. How does users is willing to accept and verify that they would like to use this product?
Yeah, true.
Different kind of testing. And when you mentioned earlier that during the development you run test case, that a unit testing. Different kind of testing activities that can involve different people.
True. And game testing can also be more of a, what you would describe the black box test, because you're trying to break the game. A tester can attempt to put a series of inputs into, let's say, a game character or whatever, and try to break it.
Yeah, that's called exploring the boundaries of the input, right? Because you're dealing with to continue with your example, a character can have different things to interact with. We want to push the thing that we can interact with to the very limit and see how the game as a model or a system can handle all of those extreme values. That's one way of testing, that one technique of testing. Yeah.
And I think with that, we have reached the end of the discussion.
We haven't wrapped up the generalist and specialist.
Well, we still have like 26 minutes. We can, I'd say we end now. It's too hard to get into, like we usually do for like 30 minutes, right? So it's hard to wrap it up in 4 minutes. Like 1, 2, 3, okay, go, wrap it up. It's too difficult.
All right.
So thanks for joining us for another Coding and Philosophy episode. And I would say this was fun.
It was fun. Yeah.
This was fun.
If you want to know more about software testing, hit me up on LinkedIn at Chiang Phung.
Yeah, and hit me up on LinkedIn if you want. I don't have any information about software testing. But goodbye.
Goodbye.